Okay, in part two, we'll be first taking up the Financial Express newspaper. So let's see the important topics here. So oil spill spoils the market mood. Again, we are seeing that crude oil prices, they're increasing. So again, apart from the growing inflation, this also becomes one of the important factors when it comes to volatility in the inflation. And apart from this, ARC's asset reconstruction companies for the biggest slice of stressed assets. So when we talk about resolution of NPAs, firstly we need to about the trend of NPAs kya raha India mein. So we are seeing कि NPAs they are declining. They are at the lowest level. एंड उसके बाद भी वी नीड टू गो इनटू कि एनपीए जो डिक्लाइन देखने को मिल रहा है वो क्यों देखने को मिल रहा है. दो मेजर रीजंस हो सकते हैं कि लोग जो पेंडिंग पैसा उसको रीपे कर रहे हैं, उसकी वजह से एनपीएस दे आर डिक्लाइनिंग. सेकंड कैन बी जो लोन राइट ऑफ्स किए जाते हैं उसकी वजह से उसमें इंक्रीज होने की वजह से एनपीएस डिक्लाइन हो रहा है. तो इंडिया में जो हमें मेजर रीजन देखने को मिल रहा है ऑफ डिक्लाइन इन एनपीएस दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ इंक्रीज लोन राइट ऑफ. सो दैट इज नॉट अ सस्टेनेबल और वी कैन से मोर प्रेफर और आइडियल वे ऑफ डिक्लाइनिंग और एक्सपेक्टिंग कि एनपीएस इस तरीके से डिक्लाइन होने चाहिए. सो दिस इज वन एरिया. अब एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज को बैंक्स अपने जो एनपीएस हैं वो सेल कर देते हैं. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि जो बोरोवर्स हैं उनकी लायबिलिटी खत्म हो जाती है, ऑब्लिगेशन खत्म हो जाती है ऑफ रीपेइंग दी पेंडिंग अमाउंट. So this is one of the options. Isme again we see in a letter to the RBI, ARCs, they have urged central bank to allow them to acquire financial assets from the asset management companies and alternative investment funds. Also, this will not only help in speedy resolution of the stressed assets, but it will also provide exit option to the mutual funds and these alternative investment funds as well. So this is basically they have demanded कि again उनका ambit और increase और widen कर दिया जाना चाहिए so that again speedy resolution NPAs का हो सके. सो एनर्जी स्टोरेज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, बैटरी एनर्जी स्टोरेज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बारे में हमने पहले बात करी. इंडिया में डेफिनेटली वी आर मूविंग इन दिस डायरेक्शन. वी आर हैविंग प्रॉपर पॉलिसी फॉर दिस. जो सिनेरियो फॉर इंडिया इन व्हिच द ग्रोथ ऑफ एनर्जी स्टोरेज इट इज नॉन नेगोशिएबल बट इट कम्स एट अ स्टिफ प्राइस. सो इट इज गोइंग टू फोर्स अ लॉट ऑफ इनोवेशन टू ट्राई टू डील विद द कॉस्ट इशू. तो बैटरी एनर्जी स्टोरेज सिस्टम पे हमें वर्क करना इंपॉर्टेंट है बिकॉज अदरवाइज जो अगेन रिसोर्सेज हैं या जो अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम जा रहा है इन जनरेटिंग मोर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, it is not possible कि always that much is consumed. So it is important again energy security की perspective से भी storage of energy हमारे पास होना चाहिए. So we are working upon building upon that infrastructure and definitely उसमें भी we are focusing upon renewable energy storage capacity कैसे हम generate कर सकते हैं. So again, यहाँ पे changed जो again we are expecting a change in Indian demographics. So 1 in 5 Indians to be 60 plus by 2050. So increasingly elderly population in India 2022 में it is 10.5%. 2050 तक we expect it would be almost doubling and 2100 तक it would be 36%. And globally, if we compare, so herein also when we look at the trend, so it is increasing. Massive increase Brazil, Russia, China में देखने को मिल रहा है and one of the highest is in Japan, then in Germany, and then in Russia. So widening current account deficit, this has already been taken up. So India की जो external debt है that rises to $629 billion by June end. So right now यहाँ पे again when we also talk about the robustness or resilience of Indian economy, so one of the major and important factors is कि हमारे जो borrowing sources हैं we are not so dependent upon the external or the foreign borrowing sources. So that also in a way makes the Indian economy hedged against the external shocks. But right now we are seeing कि जो external debt है the value is rising. So Taiwan Strait में again we are seeing tensions growing up. So Taiwan is ready to defend itself, wherein we are seeing obviously China does not want any interference of third country, but USA it supports Taiwan. So we might expect another war beginning in the Taiwan Strait. Apart from this, Indo-Pacific region में territorial claims, that is another issue, and concerns related to growing terrorism. So that's these are other two concerns.
So in the second part of the newspaper session, we are taking the newspaper Indian Express. So about Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, we have just talked about that his contribution in the evergreen revolution, in the green revolution during the 1960s, and which how made India a food surplus country and a country which can export its food to generate the wealth also. Then there is a news which is linking the India's notion of secularism, where the Supreme Court panel is saying to the Manipur government that protect the worship places and properties of the displaced. So this shows that how the timely action the executive or the government takes in Indian context to secure and to protect the religion, which shows that India's notion of secularism is very much unique and coherent, where hand-in-hand policy remains between the government or between the state, we can say between the state and the religion itself. So the time of need, state helps, and the time when the time of need comes, the religion helps the state. Then in digital bill, the government may ban some new technology citing user harm and security. So the recently notified Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 and the draft Indian Telecommunication Bill 2022, in which the policy addressing governing of non-personal data will be taken up, where the issues which will be having implication on the individual's privacy and the country's security, such kind of technologies will be banned by the government under these bills, which are gonna implemented and which are gonna pass in the Indian Parliament. So in Delhi, what we see is that a cliche happens between the LG and the executive led by Delhi CM, where the major problems comes to the people when they're not able to have the basic amenities, for an example, jobs, health facilities, and other. In this fight which goes between these two executives. So yesterday also we had talked that what we should do to improve the relations between the governors or the LGs with the executive. So unless and until in the practical sense we have the similar party to rule in the state, we can't actually think of, because the center should tell the governors or the LGs to work with cooperation with the state or with the UTs rather than with the cooperation with the center. This is the only solution as for now we can suggest. So what we are seeing is that reported missiles cases in the capital, and the precautionary measures have been taken up by the health authorities and the health departments like Department of Family Welfare, which is coming into the forefront to deal with these cases. And as far as the doctors are concerned, even the most elite people sometimes refuse to get the vaccines for their children, which we actually saw during the time of COVID also. Measles is due to the vitamin A inavailability in our body and leads to the malnourishment. Vitamin A and measles go hand in hand. So vitamin A is very much crucial for the measles vaccine is provided to children. So under the immunization program, which is called Indradhanush program, under which the 7 kind of vaccines are being provided to the children at the earlier stages, we should actually incorporate the vitamin A as well as the measles vaccines to prevent such kind of diseases to come and to affect our children. So this picture shows that how the dominant party of India is trying to revive its spirit by getting associated with the labor class, with the Dalits, with the downtrodden, to have a attachment with them so that they can revive again on the same platform on the podium which they had um, for long since independence. So today is a Heart Day, World Heart Day. So on this, we can say that we should regularly do the exercise. We should reduce our stress and should try to be in an atmosphere which is tension free and that can lead us from the defects of the heart and the cardiovascular.
So what are 2 to 3 measures that you would suggest to reduce stress amongst the youth and older age population?
Well, number one, we need to keep ourselves at bay, at distance for at least some time in a day from the technology, like we have the phone, telephones, and laptops. Despite having this reality that we are living in a technological world, but still we should try to have some distance at some point of time in a day. Number two, we should regularly do the exercise as a habit, as we do our jobs, as we do our works. On the similar patterns, we should try to do the exercises, whether we go for the outdoor or for the gym exercises. And number three is that we should try to incorporate the better things in our diet for the nutrition purposes. For an example, today there is a trend which is a revival trend for the millets. Mota anaj we can also thrive for, and more water and liquid we should have so as to reduce the our blood pressure levels, which actually leads to the cardio diseases. So these are 3 or 4 kind of measures which I can suggest as per now.
Okay.
So tobacco warnings on OTT amid pushbacks from platforms, government looking for a solution. So Apurva Chandra, he's an officer, he's saying that inconclusive and ended with the OTT platforms putting their foot down and the government offering to find a solution. So yeah, several OTT platforms these days we have like Jio, Amazon, Boot, and Netflix. On these we can actually display the anti-tobacco warnings and some of their interfering legal repercussions. But the most important thing in the tobacco sector in these these kind of items which leads to the diseases in our body, we should try a behavioral revolution against these, and we should try to limit their intake by the youth who is very much attached to these. Again, we are seeing a center-state relation topic where the Bengal governor is ordering police to get removed from his residence as he's putting an allegation on them that he's being tracked by the police authorities, and he has written to the MHA and state for jammers seeks debugging. So again, this is um, a kind of event which we are seeing where such kind of issues which are coming among the executives, where the police is being treated as the culprit, taking the side of the state governments, and the governor is urging from the central government to take actions against the state police authorities to not do his tracking. Afghanistan embassy in New Delhi may shut down its operations. So what could be the reason of it? So in the context of ambassador being out of India for the past many months and steady departure of the diplomats to third countries reportedly after receiving asylum. So these are some kind of mismanagement which have been noticed by by the Indian authorities in the Indian embassy located in the state of New Delhi, which could be the reason because of which such kind of incidents have come where the Afghanistan embassy is going to shut down in New Delhi. So custodial deaths, this is the death which actually takes place into the police station because of the police authorities under the name of investigation and interrogation. But low commission panels and national um, criminal review board all have suggested, and timely verdicts have been given by the judiciary in the form of Supreme Court, High Courts to prevent such kind of third degree torture in the name of interrogation. And for this, we have certain provisions also. So now let's have a look on man of science and humanity, which whom we know as Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. So he was a very ardent scientist of the agriculture and was working with a Norman Borlaug, who is considered as the white man's revolution, who brought the milk revolution in India during the similar time. What we were seeing that millions of people were dying because of the starvation in India before the Green Revolution, where we were having very limited amount of food to feed our population. The country was importing 10 million tons from the US under PL 480 schemes, and a lot of embarrassment the Indian political leadership had to face at that time when Indira Gandhi was um, abused by the US president that whatever she requires, the US should give to her. So this was a very embarrassment statement at that particular moment when we had strained relations with the US amid the allegation by the US that India took the side of United States of Russia, United Soviet State of Russia during the Cold War, and because of their application which we saw. So Dr. Swaminathan worked to convince the political leadership to import 18,000 tons of seed of high-yielding dwarf wheat varieties. These are the name Lerma, Rojo, Sonaro, 64 from Mexico. So this was the biggest seed shipment in the history of India. So they were indigenized with the local condition with Kalyan, Sona, and Sonalika. I think these are the names of the tractors and the technologies because of which the indigenous wheat varieties got developed in Indian agriculture scenario. His contribution had far-reaching impacts that food security was reached in a short time. India was able to export 85 million tons of cereals to the global security. Then he was a geneticist as well as the administrator of who headed the Indian Council of Agriculture Research and later became the DG of the International Research Institute in the Philippines. So these were the accomplishments of Dr. Swaminathan because of his great work which he did in the Indian agriculture sector. And he won the World Food Prize as a product of his endeavor. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and Padma Shri, all the three prestigious awards, which is given to the individuals who have their expertise in their fields. National Commission of Farmers, which is chaired and submitted 5 reports. So one of the recommendation of that commission was to have a minimum support price or MSP for the farmers based on the cost of production plus 50% return. But actually, the problem is that because of the financial limitations and foundations of the government of India as well as the state government, we cannot actually um, go to implement the formula of the MSP which was given by the Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, which is upheld by the Supreme Court also. In this case, when the farmers revolts we saw in the 2020 on the streets of Delhi, when the whole North India was coming on the roads and was doing the farmer protest in the demand of the recommendation to be implemented, which was given by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan for the MSP. But the government of India having a stance that because of the international pressures and because of the financial burdens, we actually cannot implement the MSP recommendation, which is to be given to the farmers plus 50% return. So this much is in this editorial we can have.
Okay, so what is your idea of Green Revolution 2.0?
I think in this we are focusing on the horticulture and the organic farming. This much I can say.
Okay, only this much?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, like, I would like to ask you, what are the other options which you want to ask, or which are which you can tell me now?
We can talk about the genetically engineered crops. We are focusing upon that also. So that will be definitely helping us in increased productivity, and definitely, since the population is also increasing, we're one of the most populous country. So food security would also be ensured with that. Apart from this, we can talk about per drop, more crop, how we are working upon micro level, micro irrigation techniques we're working upon. You can talk about modern technology into the agriculture sector, how that is being their application basically in the agriculture sector. Then what are other initiatives that we can think about, which would be ensuring financial security to the Indian agriculturers? So herein, main problem right now in the Indian agriculture sector is about low productivity. So how we'll be boosting that, ensuring even the farmers' income increases. So therein, the role of millet cultivation also becomes important.
Okay, so basically 2 points you have raised. Number one, the technology, where you are saying that a number of technologies in the irrigation sector, like we have the drip irrigation, per drop more crop, and vertical farming, horizontal farming. Also, we are seeing these days in the form of technological advancement which has come. And and then the second point you raised about the millets production. Well, yeah, that is a revival of the Indian
One more,
agriculture's value.
one more important point, that we can also use artificial intelligence technology in terms how it would be helping the farmers in even, taking decisions about sowing decisions and which crop needs to be sowed. So therein, artificial intelligence technology can definitely help them.
Well, I think that in the implementation of this, we actually cannot rely these at this moment on the artificial intelligence, because for the disaster management, for the early weather forecasting, for the what kind of seed, what kind of productivity level their land has, everything is being provided to the farmers under the Doordarshan channels, under the National Social Assistance Program, under the under the National Soil Health Card. So every kind of information is being provided to them, but actually going for the artificial intelligence to actually do this work for the Indian agriculture farmers, we actually require the awareness generation, which is very much important. So for that, I think we need to increase the literacy level of the farmers. We need to have some more kind of awareness generation programs, their direct cooperation with the authorities. So on number of factors, we have to do the work for this.
Yes, but both the things need to be done in a simultaneous manner.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was the Bhagat Singh message of universalism? So, what we are witnessing is uninhibited demonization of the other, the use of term like termites for migrants, the inflammatory messages at Dharam Sansad of sadhus and sants, and impunity enjoyed by them raised doubts about the sincerity of our resolve towards Vasudev Kutumbakam. So, do we realize that weaponization of nationalism and project of making India a Hindu Rashtra goes against the grand theme of G20? So, as far as I am concerned, actually, this is a kind of a biased um, angle which has been reflected in this article, because if you are talking about the inflammatory messages at the Dharam Sansad of sadhus and sants, so we should actually talk about the similar kind of inflammatory messages in different religious association, which is being done regularly, not in the Dharam Sansad of sadhus and sants, number one. And as far as the Vasudeva Kutumbakam is concerned, so Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the idea is only the very first time, the only was revived in the Dharam Sansad itself. So we can't actually criticize those people for actually going against this principle, and the weaponization of nationalism and making India Hindu Rashtra. So making India Hindu Rashtra is not actually the demand of any association, any religious association. The major demand is to actually revive the spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, where every individual of different religious association lives with happiness, with coherence, and with fraternity with his counterpart. So rather than criticizing what we got, we should actually appraise that what we have. So if
Yes,
you want
and
to say something,
yeah, one more point, that it is being written over here, the creating India as a Hindu Rashtra. So even that goes against the spirit of Indian secularism as well.
exactly. So shrinking in safety net. So we are not going to read this again in the full. So what is Manrega budget? Refusal to acknowledge Aadhaar-based payment system. So what we are saying that Manrega is being given to the 100-day amount of work which is given to the poor and to the people who are living below poverty line, and somehow to the above poverty line also. So to those people who can't actually get the work, and these kind of works are in the social development, social infrastructure development. So the major problems comes is in the payment system. So we should strive towards the Aadhaar based payment system, and actually we can also have the DBT, which is direct benefit transfer. But for that, we have to ensure that financial inclusion is done of the people, as well as the Aadhaar based payment system is done to prevent the malpractices which we actually see in the social payment system. That is the duplication, that is the leakage of the financial monies, institutional barriers, and number of other factors.
I would just like to correct you here that we are already using this Aadhaar-based payment system. Here, the article is trying to highlight what are the problems in the Aadhaar-based payment system, and we are not trying to acknowledge those problems.
So yeah, the Aadhaar-based payment system actually, in the last year, what we had a news that there are some Aadhaar cards on the basis of which the Manrega is being given, and those Aadhaar cards were having the names of Amitabh Bachchan, Aishwarya Rai. These were the names. So these kind of fraudulent Aadhaar cards which have been assigned by the local authorities to the Manrega's beneficiaries. Such kind of reforms, such kind of problems we have to tackle, and on that we have to focus on.
Yes. Okay.
So women's reservation in parliament and state legislature is also likely to have indirect impacts on increasing women labor supply in the long term. Gender quotas in panchayat suggest that exposure to women political leaders weaken traditional gender stereotypes of their role in society and home. Greater public visibility of women creates a role model. So yeah, we should actually acknowledge the importance of the women's reservation bill, which is being passed by the parliament recently. But along with that, we actually have to focus that this bill is gonna help the elite section of the women in majority, rather than dealing with the grassroots level women who are working in the fields, who are working in the labor sector, who are working in the gig economy, who are not having enough attention, enough money, enough power to actually reach the parliament. So what we should do, we should not only to focus on the reservation for women in the parliament, we should try to utilize this reservation in the regard, in the endeavor of the women who are working in these sectors, who actually requires a woman leaders to lead them in a different sectors. So this is an important news we have on the world page, that Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh will cease to exist from January 1. So ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh region said that they were dissolving the break of a satellite they had defended for 3 decades, with more than half the population has fled since Azerbaijan launched a lightning strike and lightning offense last week. A republic would cease to exist, and which amount of formal capitulation to Azerbaijan. So basically, what we are seeing is that the region is very much affected because of the frequent fights which are occurring place between these two independent countries, that is Armenia and Azerbaijan. One is a Christian, one is Mohammedan, and one is having support of West, one is having the support of Russia. So what we can have, what we are seeing these days is that, in the international order, there is a lot of hue and cry which is going on for the territorial expansions, for the political acknowledgement. So we are heading towards a world of tensions these days. So we should try to reduce that. and the active engagement of the UN should be there, because UN is an agency, UN is a platform which was made just for because of these reasons. So, but what we are seeing that it is having a very silent stance on these kind of issues when we are seeing the annexations, um, when we are seeing the political confrontations among different countries. So, melting down of glaciers is one of the implication of the rising climate change led by the global warming. So Switzerland glaciers. Switzerland is considered as a beautiful country having a number of glaciers and attract a number of tourists across the year. It has suffered the second worst melt rate this year, shrinking. So what could be the implications? The implications could be the effect on the agriculture sector, on the rising floods, flash floods, and you know low winter snowfall combined with longer summer melt season dealt heavy losses. If we talk about the depletion of the glaciers, so this is a rising challenge with what we are seeing in the climate change arena, where it is having an implication on the water availability, water scarcity, then frequent floods, then cloud burst, and a number of other factors it is having linked. So at the ultimatum, we should try to reduce the climate change led by global warming by our individual actions as well as by the corporate actions. And on the international level, the governments are taking their steps. So the GST Council is having a view that they are ready to bring 28% GST on e-gaming from October 1, and all states yet to pass laws. So what we can see is that not every state has a laws to deal with the e-gaming, and 28% GST will be levied from October 1 as far as the center is concerned. So if you want to add something, so you can add on this topic, because I'm not finding anything important in this.
It's like the decision is that e-gaming industry, whether it is games of skill or games of chance, both would be coming under this tax, and this is definitely something which is legitimate. So, however, we are seeing that the e-gaming industry, they're opposing this decision of levying 28% GST. But
Okay.
I favor this step by the government.
So Brent hits 97 US dollar amid supply worries. So rather than focusing on these lines, what could be the solutions um, to prevent such kind of supply worries for the crude Brent? What we should do? So number one, I think we should try to focus on not on fossil fuel based vehicles. We should try to improve our potential in the e-vehicles, in the hydrogen vehicle, in the gas based vehicles. Number two, we should try to use our cave-in system, where we actually store the oil at the time when the oil supply is very much um, very much in our favor. And number third, we should try to use the public vehicles rather than focusing on our individual vehicles. So these are the three immediate steps which we can take. If you have any, so you can tell.
Yeah, like the steps that you talked about, I feel these are some long-term measures because they'll be taking some time when we're seeing actual real-time impact on the ground. So in terms of short-term measures that we can adopt is, firstly, as we are going forward also, we have been implementing this thing of diversifying our crude oil import partner countries. So of late, we have seen the share of even Russia supplying the crude oil to India that has jumped massively. So herein also, we were getting this opportunity of importing the discounted crude oil. So that was again leveraged by India. So that is one of the short-term measures that we have been adhering to. Apart from this, again, the green energy transition that we can talk about, we are having green hydrogen mission. We are basically exploring the opportunities that exist in fuel cell technology and even in biofuels also, particular group of biofuels that can definitely help us. So these are some of the possible
Okay.
measures.
Okay, so two things. One is having the oil relations with multiple countries, and number third is the biofuels. So basically, towards the renewables, we are focusing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Union Road Transport and Highway Ministry is finalizing a policy on the civic waste used in the road building. So actually, we see that geotextile, cold forged salt technology. So these are the on the similar lines that the civic waste, which is generated from the civic society in the form of household waste, in the form of industrial waste. So the government is constantly focusing upon that how to use this waste into the road building construction activities. So for this, different kind of state of the art technologies is required, and this will having a huge cost to actually deal with. But as far as the government is concerned, that this will promote the use of alternative fuel in the construction equipment to reduce the cost and dependence on the fossil fuels, because um, even now we are using the tarpaul based roads and the cement based roads, which is having a higher cost. So yeah, the civic waste is gonna be a better option for the construction activities, and it will reduce the waste and will make us more cleaner and more um, preventable from the various kind of diseases which generates from the civic waste. Okay, so we are done for today. This is much in the Indian Express News. We'll meet tomorrow on the next topic. Thank you so much.